Welcome everyone to round 10 of RaceCentre's Race to Reality competition, live from Summit Point on v8online.com.au. Jay Kennedy here and ready to hand over to our commentators to bring you all the action of qualifying which has just begun. It's over to Reece Gardner and Mitchell McLeod.
G'day guys, how are we? We're your commentators for tonight, round 10 of Race to Reality. I am Reece Gardner and I'd like to introduce a new commentator in the box tonight, Mitchell McLeod. How are you, Mitch?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm probably more nervous for this race than if I was racing myself. I've never really commentated a full race before, so pardon me if I stuff anything up tonight.
I am exactly the same, Mitch. We're looking at a very interesting race tonight. We're racing at Summit Point, but not the normal version of the track. We're racing the short version of the circuit, which is a tad bit faster than the normal version of the racetrack. We're going into qualifying now, just about. We have a 20-minute qualifying session and a 40-minute race. So going into qualifying, who are your picks for tonight's race, Mitch?
Well, I reckon John Latham's probably one of the guys to watch because he's had a few close calls of getting in the win already, but always seems to have a mistake or something goes wrong in his race and he just can't quite get there. So no doubt he'll be pushing pretty hard, running out of rounds now to get a win to get into the final. But also Matthew Hill and Brad Ryan, they're probably a couple of hot tips as well.
Yeah, it's looking very close, especially concerning practice times. We had John Latham on a 104.336 and Brad Ryan on a 104.355. So very close up the top there. Matthew Hill was a little bit behind on a 104.514, but all through the field it seems to be rather close. The field is spread out by, I'd say, about 3 1/3 seconds. So if anything, it'll be a pretty close race tonight.
Especially up the front, the times up the top are very tight, so it's going to be a good one to watch for the round winner, I reckon.
Indeed. As it stands at the moment, Brad Ryan is heading the timesheets on a 104.375, and we've got Stephen Clark running in second at the moment, 5 tenths behind on a 104.834, and we're having guys mostly setting rather slow lap times, but I'm sure we'll see them ramp up towards the end of the session.
That's not a bad first lap for Brad Ryan. That's only a couple of hundredths off his time in practice, so it'd be interesting to see if John Latham can actually match that one.
Indeed. We're having a look at Stephen Clark at the moment, Sandman as he is known. He has commentated in the past for V8's Online. Going through the slowest part of the circuit at the moment. This part is very difficult, especially in a Legends car. Coming out of this section of the track, you've got a right-left-right, which is slowly increasing in radius, and you're constantly fighting understeer and oversteer. I know in my experiences with Summit Point, I've never quite been able to get this section right. What's your history at this track, Mitch? What do you think of it?
Well, that section that you're just talking about, the tight, twisty stuff, it's all off camber, then on camber, then off camber again. There's a few ripple strips which you can hit sometimes, but yeah, it's a really, really tricky part of the track to get right. For such a small track, it's a lot of time to be going through there.
Especially, and this section of the circuit that Stephen Clark is going through now, this piece of road that he just traversed was the piece of track that links two sections of the track to create the short version of Summit Point. Of course, being the short version of Summit Point, this version of the circuit doesn't have the hairpin at the end of the start-finish straight, so that is one overtaking spot that might be taken away during this round of Race to Reality. So I don't know, but we might see drivers trying to find other points on the track to overtake.
Yeah, no doubt, and with these cars it's very easy to make a mistake, and one small little mistake through that tight twisty stuff and you can have some wheel-to-wheel action.
As Stephen Clark has just demonstrated. It would seem that he suffered a little bit of oversteer coming through one of the fast sections of the circuit. John Latham going into turn 1 at the moment. This version of the track is a slight bit faster, but which should be conducive to some very good racing, as John Latham is going into a fast right-hander. This right-hander is very off camber, downhill, and goes instantly into this this switchback, which is especially bumpy section of the track. Summit Point in general is very bumpy, so it's going to be very testing for the Legends cars, which are notoriously snappy.
And John Latham's already qualified faster than his practice time, but he's still 2/10 off Brad Ryan, so Brad's looking pretty good for pole at the moment.
It would seem so. Brad Ryan focusing on Matthew Hill at the moment, going through the fast turn, the second last turn on the circuit actually, coming towards this slightly short length straight towards the final turn, which starts out wide and then tightens a little bit, but you've got a bit of runoff area on the outside for you to take advantage of, which Matthew Hill does, kicking up a bit of dust on the way. He's coming up to the start-finish line at the moment. Let's see what time he's got on the board. It is a 109.876, so obviously he backed off a bit on that lap or had a bit of an incident, so we'll see what he can do on this one.
He's not far off John Latham either, so if he can just put that little bit of time together in one of his quick laps, he might actually jump into the front row, but at the moment, Brad Ryan, I reckon he's still the one to beat.
Yeah, it seems that John Latham and Matthew Hill in particular will have their work cut out for them trying to catch up Brad Ryan. We've got John Latham coming towards the end of another lap. I'm not too sure if this is an out lap or a hot lap, but we'll see in a moment as he comes into the braking zone for the final turn, just kisses the curb on the inside, and then he's using that runoff area very economically. As he comes to the start-finish line, let's see what time he puts down. It is a 108.991, so that's another lap that someone's backed off on. We haven't really seen anyone improve on many times or set many fast laps, so chance that the session might not see many more fast laps set.
Matthew Hill just found another 100th of a second, but it's not enough to put him up in front of John Latham, so he's back out and track and having another go.
Indeed, Michael Manley now coming out of the final turn. Car 40 comes to the start-finish line. What time does he set? He does not set a time. He's starting a hot lap. Talk us around Summit Point, Mitch.
Well, I haven't actually been on this circuit before, but this track, this corner here is usually a very difficult one because it's quite easy to run off the outside and put a wheel off and get a 1x, so which means that your lap doesn't count. So through here it's usually flat out, hard onto the brakes. It's hard to get the car settled before you have to brake into this corner, but it's nicely cambered, so you can put a lot of power down. Here, this corner starts off cambered and then comes off cambered on the exit of it, and just try and put that curb on the right hand side, put the power down quite nicely. Just missed that one, and you just want to miss the curb on the inside here as well. Got a bit of lap traffic there to go around. Got through that, no worries. Down the straight, and the last corner is also really hard because you think you can carry a lot more speed into there than what you actually can, but it tightens up mid-corner. So that runoff, you usually use all of that, which he doesn't this time, so we'll see what time he does.
Michael Manley coming up to the start-finish line now. What time does he set? It is a 105.426, which is slower than the time that he's already posted, so unfortunately he doesn't improve on his time that time around. But this session has just over 10 minutes remaining in it, so halfway done, half to go. Let's see what the drivers can do. It would seem that Brad Ryan has further improved on his time. He set a 104.067, so that's completely smashed everyone else. We'll see if John Latham coming to the start-finish line now, 107.568. Doesn't seem that he improved on it that time, but Brad Ryan, it would seem, is the favourite for pole.
Kind of looks like at this stage that Brad Ryan was holding his cards pretty close to his chest, I reckon, during practice, because that time, to find 3/10 around a small track like this is usually unheard of, so I reckon he's been playing with everyone a little bit.
So it would seem Brad Ryan. Harry Gosling at the moment, car 1 in the session on a 105.175, coming through the sweeper onto the straight before the second last turn. Currently on a 105.175, and the gap to Stephen Clark, the car ahead of him, is about 0.3 of a second. So we'll see what he can do coming through the final corner, not using much of the runoff at all. again, I'm not quite sure if he's starting a lap or has set a lap. It's a 1:05.794, which is 0.6 slower than the time he's already posted. So again, apart from Brad Ryan and a few other people, John Latham, Matthew E. Hill, we're not seeing many people improving on their times. We've got Desmond Hallam off at the exit of turn 1. He's back in the pits and coming out to start again.
Looks like John Latham is just about to finish another lap, so it'll be interesting to see if he can improve on his time, because that first time that he set, he hasn't actually improved on it yet, so hopefully he can find a little bit more pace.
John Latham, 1:08.938. That was an outlap. So he's starting his hot lap now. Coming through turn 3, I believe it is. It's hard to tell with the way the track turns on this circuit. Coming into the sweeper, very difficult turn to get right, especially in my experience around Summit Point. This track's never agreed with me. Hard braking into the tight left-hander, and then it turns into a switchback through this slow right-hander. Let's see what John Latham can do through this section of the circuit. On the power, ducks to the inside, coming through the first of the sweepers, and then just a little bit of a twitch from John Latham's car, runs out onto the curb. Oh, that'll be a 1x. I think his lap's done there. He'll have to save that for another attempt.
And that is so easy to do in these cars. They oversteer if you don't have throttle on. So you have to have a bit of throttle on coming all the way through the corner to settle the car a little bit. But then as soon as you put all the power down, it understeers. So you think you've got the corner sweet, put the power down, and you understeer straight off the track, and that's exactly what happened to John just then. And of course,
since these cars are incredibly light, it's they've got lots of grip, but it's very easy to lose them. We're focusing on Luke Emerton at the moment, who's coming through the switchbacks. His current time on the board is a 1:05.422, and it would seem he's on a hot lap at the moment, coming through the fast right, sorry, on the back end of the circuit, coming along to the final corner, ducking to the inside a little bit. There's a little bit of a curve there on the entry to the final turn. Again, doesn't use all that much of the runoff area at all, sticks to the right, and he's coming up to the start-finish line now. Let's see if he's improved on his time. That's a 1:05.877, which is 0.4 slower than his posted time, so again, not many drivers improving on their times. Focusing on Rob Hartley now. Slow outlap. Of course, this may help his chances because in iRacing, slow outlaps are more often than not better for your tyres over the course of a hot lap. So as he comes through the final corner, uses all of the runoff getting ready to start his hot lap, and going along the start-finish straight. From my observances, you need to brake pretty much as soon as you cross the start-finish line if you want to have any chance of making this first turn here. Duck again to the inside so you have a straighter line through this turn, and then just make your line through that section as straight as possible. A little left-hand kink there just before the right-hand sweeper, so has the tendency to throw your car off. So I saw that he took a bit of a tight line into that section of the circuit, so we'll see whether that overall has improved his time or not.
Usually taking a tight line into that corner doesn't really upset it too much. Sometimes it can be fast, actually. It depends on what sort of a car you're in, but I'm not too sure how to go faster on the track in the Legend. I've never driven around here before, but looks like he might have backed off there to give a bit of space to the car in front of him.
It would seem so. Driving a Legends, I know that I've driven the Legends a few times before, and even in the first couple of rounds of this Race to Reality series, it's an incredibly difficult car to drive, and even more difficult to go fast in it. There was a 1:05.342 from Rob Hartley, so he did back off slightly on that lap. He's going back into the pits, I believe, or just having a bit of a rest. Brad Ryan is starting a hot lap at the moment, coming through turn 1, sticking to the inside of the first turn.
And he's actually following John Latham, so the two are on track, battling for pole position, pretty close to each other.
It would seem that if Brad Ryan was just a little bit closer to John Latham, he might be able to catch a bit of a draft from him. Unfortunately, he seems to be a bit too old. John Latham seems to have pulled out of that hot lap. So
I reckon John might have heard you and pulled out of the way so he didn't give him any more of a help.
John Latham coming out of the pits again and starting an out lap. Brad Ryan continuing his hot lap. We'll see if he improves on his time here.
It's looking like a pretty fast lap too, so it'll be interesting to see if he can improve on the 104 and get into 103s.
Yeah, might we see a driver come into the 103s? We'll see, as Brad Ryan uses a modest amount of runoff area on the exit of the last turn, coming up to the start-finish line. What time is it? He sets a 104.170, which is a tenth slower than his posted time, but still, it doesn't seem that he's in any danger for being challenged for pole. Focusing on Matthew Hill now, coming through the switchbacks. I'm not too sure if he's on an out lap or a hot lap at the moment. We'll see in a couple of seconds if he has. Well, it seems that he's going rather slowly, so it would seem that it is an out lap. He's ramping up the speed a little bit though, coming through this section of the circuit. I've noticed on Summit Point that the curbs in particular are very bumpy, and you've got to be you've got to really think about what curbs you can use over the course of the lap if you want to get a fast time.
Yeah, because it's such a small car and don't weigh too much, even if you just nudge the curbs a little bit too much, it'll just upset the balance of the car, and it's very hard to counteract the oversteer in these cars when you're on a flying lap because you're that on the edge all the time anyway. So you want to touch them, just kiss them, but you don't want to hit them enough to upset all the car. So it's a really fine line between doing a really quick lap and winning it.
Speaking of how these cars drive, there is a reason that that these guys are driving these cars in particular. It's because they are the most similar in characteristic to Australia's Aussie Racing Car category, and that is the main objective of this Race to Reality series. The driver that wins a race of a round of Race to Reality will get a spot in the Race to Reality final. And then the winner of that final, the winner at the very end of the competition, will get a drive worth $10,000 in an Aussie race car at the final V8 Supercar round of the year at the Homebush Street Circuit. So there's a lot up for grabs here at the moment. Hilly sets a 104.2, so he's bypassed John Latham in the standings at the moment. It's not quite close to Brad Ryan's time still, but it is an improvement, and it's put John Latham one spot down the field, and I can see John Latham is coming out of the pits now to see if he can respond to that.
Yes, Adrian Stratford has just joined the session. He's my newly signed teammate for the V8 Supercar Series this season, and he was offered a spot on the grid about an hour ago, and he's only just got in now, so I don't think he's done any practice, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Hopefully he flies a flag from a new team.
Indeed, Adrian Stratford, time on the board is a 107.75, but that is a slow lap, so we'll see what he can do if he manages to improve on that time before the session ends. It seems that he will. He's going a bit faster this time round, coming along the straight, under the bridge, braking into the final corner, and just narrowly missing the curb and not using any runoff area on the exit of the final corner. I think he's still feeling the limits of the car. Let's see what time he can set here. That's a 107.074, so that's a massive improvement on his time, but it's still a long way behind John O'Barry, who is on a 105.672. He's currently sitting in the pits at the moment. We've got Brad Ryan coming out of the final corner. It's coming near to the end of qualifying at the moment, so we'll see if Brad Ryan can improve on his time again. Unfortunately, no, but fortunately, his time is 2/10 ahead of the nearest competitor, Matthew Hill, who stops on track. And
John Latham is still on a final flying lap, so we'll follow him around and see if he can jump Matthew Hill again or even get up to pole. But it's looking like a pretty tidy lap so far, so if he gets a good run down this straight and onto the final around the final corner, he might have a bit of a chance here.
Let's see if he nails it. Brake, turn in, apex, track out.
That looks pretty much perfect to me. We'll see how he
Definitely.
goes.
Coming to the end of the lap, and he crossed the start-finish line. What is it? A
Oh,
104.096. My goodness. What a fantastic lap from John Latham. That is absolutely brilliant. Pips Matthew Hill for second place on the grid. And it seems that Brad Ryan, not as far ahead as we thought he would be, but still pole position for round 10 of Race to Reality at Summit Point Short. Qualifying results are now on screen. We've got first position, Brad Ryan. Second, John Latham. Third, Matthew Hill. 4, Robbie Tomei. 5, Robert Hartley. 6th, Desmond Hallam. 7th, Stephen Sandman Clark. 8th, Harry Gosling. 9, Michael Manley. 10th, Luke Emerton. 11th, John O'Barry. And 12th, Adrian Stratford. So that's the grid for round 10 of Race to Reality. They're gridding now.
These things aren't the easiest cars to get off the grid either, so you can get a really good start sometimes, but if you bog it down, it's really hard to get it back going again. So it's going to be nervous times for Brad Ryan and John Latham after coming, especially John Latham. His nerves would have been on the edge after that final qualifying session.
Indeed, these cars, apart from being light, they also use low power, low torque motorcycle engines. So as you said, Mitch, they are incredibly hard to get off the grid. So the start's going to be a very important part of this race. But it's a short run to the first turn, so we'll see how things pan out. On-screen timing has started, but it's not the start of the race just yet. The revs are rising at the moment. We'll see when the race starts. We're still waiting for Robbie Tomei to take the grid. He takes the grid, and we're just going to wait for the signal to go green. Revs are rising. Drivers testing out their engines. 15 seconds to go.
Sitting there a very long time.
Yeah, this is going to up the nerves in the drivers a little bit. Nothing worse than sitting on the grid with a long way to go. It feels like forever, but the revs are rising. Green flag. The drivers have set off. And it looks like the top of the field got a very tidy start as they come into the first corner. Brad Ryan leads the way, but Desmond Hallam at the moment way back in the field, following Robert Hartley, and see if he can make a move. First lap move down into this turn. He backs out of it, but overall, pretty clean start so far from the field, and it looks to be a clean first lap.
Yeah, everyone's been well behaved, straight into single file and follow the leader. So hopefully the front guys can all keep with each other. But as we've seen in qualifying, it's so easy to make a mistake, so anything can still happen.
Especially since Hartley attacking Tomei, I was going to say especially since these cars are going to be running for a much longer time than they do in qualifying, and Summit Point being a mostly right turn circuit will be hard on the left tyres. Robert Hartley on the inside of Robbie Tomei doesn't quite get the move done, but we've got a car off. We've got a car off in the front. I'm not sure who that is. That was Matthew Hill. Matthew Hill, but now we've got people are starting to bunch up a little bit in. Does Desmond Hallam has passed Robert Hartley, and it would seem that especially in the midfield to the back end of the field, things are starting to hot up a little bit. Brad Ryan and John
Desmond's
Latham
got very sideways going to the corner then.
We'll see if he can keep his spot, but Brad Ryan and John Latham have pulled away from the rest of the field and are starting a little bit of a drafting partnership, it would seem, with the longish straights on this circuit, pulling away from Matthew Hill.
Yeah, it looks like we've got our first retirement as well.
Oh,
Adrian
that's
Stratford.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate. But of course, not much practice, and he has said that his first lap was qualifying. So, unfortunately, bad end to round 10 of Race to Reality for Adrian Stratford, but we'll see if he can return. For the next round, for the next rounds of Race to Reality, there are talks of a change of format. So we'll be asking people what they like to see. But what changes would you like to see for Race to Reality, Mitch?
It's a difficult one, I reckon. It's such a good initiative to get in sim racing and get online and have a race in these awesome cars that are so fun to drive. And when you've got a full field of cars side by side, they're so close. It's really on the edge racing. And at the end of it, if you win, you get to drive in a real life race car. So I don't see how many people aren't getting into it.
Yeah, indeed. I think, me personally, I would say that the race length is a little bit of a turn off. 40 minutes driving on one of these things can get a bit tiring from time to time, and if I'm not wrong, Aussie race car races are a little bit shorter than this, so I'd say to change it up a little bit. How about make it 2 sprints or something like that? Change up the action a little bit and make the drivers sprint and work. John Latham has had an incident, it would seem.
Way back in 5th position.
Way back. Very strange. Wonder what happened to him.
It looks as though he's just outbroke himself into turn 1. Way too hot into there. Doesn't look like he's got any damage though, so...
Well, unfortunately, this incident that John Latham got himself into has put him into 4th place behind Robbie Tomei, who now holds 3rd, and that's put Matthew Hill up into 2nd place. But Brad Ryan coming into turn 1, coming out of turn 1 at the moment, while Matthew Hill is just entering it, would seem that at the moment Brad Ryan's in a bit of a comfortable lead at the moment. Desmond. Oh, we've got a 3-car pile up. Oh, we've got 4 cars involved. Yeah. That's
well, that was Desmond on. Who was that on? That was on Robbie Tomei. That was not sure if Robbie didn't see him coming up there or.
Oh, and it would seem that Robbie Tomei is now in the pits, and it would seem that he's not too happy with that one. A very unfortunate incident at turn 1. It's a very it's a very threshold breaking sort of turn, because medium speed turn. Hartley and Stephen Clark had a separate incident. It would seem that there's a very, very big gap between Clark and Hartley now.
It's so easy to do. You see an incident happening up in front of you, and then all of a sudden you're having your own incident because you're not watching on what you're actually doing. So looks like that's what's happened there with Stephen Clark.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, unfortunately. Desmond Hallam has had another off, and he's going into the pits, seemingly to repair damage. Robbie Tomei has disconnected from the service, so that's night over for him. Desmond Hallam pitting for repairs, and out of the pits is coming another car, Robert Hartley, who very far behind everyone else at the moment.
Yeah, it's looking like Brad Ryan's got this one in the bag, but being so far out in front with such a long time to go, the same thing for your mind. All of a sudden you'll end up making a small mistake because you're thinking of something else. So, you know, the race isn't over yet.
Matthew Hill has had a bit of an incident, lost a spot to Stephen Clark.
Yeah, it looks like he's just put a wheel off. Oh, I got it a little bit sideways on one of the curbs, and a wheel off into the grass after that, and then just couldn't quite keep it on the track and spit loops it trying to get back onto the track as well. So that's really unfortunate. It just shows how easy it is to make a mistake around this track and these cars.
Yeah, definitely. But Matthew Hill is having none of it, and he wants that position back. I can tell from the aggressive way that he's driving that car. He's closed up on Sandman already, but it would seem that Clark is holding the position. Michael Manley up into third now. We've had a massive shuffling of the order in these first few laps at some point. John Latham, it turns out, he got back to second, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword for John Latham. He managed to get back up into second, but he is unfortunately a long, long way behind Brad Ryan. The gap last time by was 6.3 seconds or 6.4 seconds, so it's going to take a bit of effort to make that back up. But Brad Ryan at the moment, it would seem, has a clear air in front of him, and he's just cruising.
It's another thing for Brad Ryan at the moment. It's got to be so careful. There's so many incidents happening with people just making their own mistakes and getting involved in accidents. There's nothing to say that that might not happen right in front of Brad Ryan and he gets caught up in somebody else's incident. So no doubt John Latham's going to be pushing as hard as he can, so that Brad has to keep pushing as hard as he can so he doesn't get caught, and that might force him into an error.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sandman and Hilly at the moment in a little bit of a battle. It's funny you should mention that, Mitch, because I've noted from driving these cars in the past, not only do they require a little bit of finesse, they also require rhythm. You can't have anything unexpected happen or else it will throw you off. So Brad Ryan will have to be on the lookout. Stephen Clark up into fourth, I believe, in front of Matthew Hill. John O'Barry is in the pits at the moment. He must have damage or some sort of incident happen to him. So we've got a lot of cars in the pits, a lot of cars getting shuffled around, and some interesting action happening on track.
It looks like Brad Ryan's definitely found his rhythm. He's on that last lap, he was a full 4-5 tenths faster than what John Latham was. So John Latham might be overdriving a little bit, trying to get back into that rhythm and find it to try and catch Brad again, but whatever Brad's doing, he's doing it right at the moment.
Well, we've got overall, I think about half an hour or so to go in this race, and currently the gap is nearly 7 seconds, so it would...
Yeah,
Brad.
as I say that Brad's found his rhythm, he runs off the track.
Oh boy, that was a bit of a scary moment for Brad Ryan, but John Latham currently about 7 seconds behind. Oh, 6.4. Sandman and Hilly again. These guys are having an excellent scrap at the moment. Matthew Hill behind Sandman and hoping to catch a bit of a draft. Closes up just a little bit through the braking zone. We'll see if he tries to make a move into the right-hand sweeper at the end of the straight. We've got the camera on Sandman at the moment, watching Matthew Hill behind him. We'll see what happens in this complex of corners. Matthew Hill stays behind Sandman. Oh, but Sandman runs a little bit wide, but that gives him the inside line for the next corner. But then we've got this section of turns, which, as I mentioned in qualifying, are very, very difficult to get right. And Matthew Hill will be hoping that Sandman makes a little bit of a mistake. Matthew Hill runs a little bit wide.
Very close.
No. Oh, good luck. Good thing there was that tarmac strip there, or that would have ended a little more badly for Matthew Hill than it did. So Sandman is comfortably in the lead of Matthew Hill at the moment, but Matthew Hill did qualify third, so we'll see what he can do under race conditions and maybe pass Sandman again for third. Sorry. Adrian Stratford, not a retirement. He's back out on track, which is good to see, and he's currently chasing. He's 2 laps down though, so he'll have a fair bit of ground to make up.
Actually found some pretty good pace as well. But his best lap so far is a 1:05.7, so in qualifying that would have been still last, but only a tenth off the position in front of him, so he's finding his feet pretty quickly.
Yeah, good to see from Adrian Stratford. We'll see what kind of stuff he can do towards the end of the race. 2 laps down, so unsure if he might be able to make a big impact on the race as it stands, but as you said, finding his feet very well. We've got the camera focusing on Luke Emerton at the moment, who is giving Adrian Stratford a bit of a draft assist coming through this back section of the circuit and back onto the start-finish straight. We'll see if he will let Adrian unlap himself. Oh, Adrian Stratford pulling over to the right. Let's see if he tries and makes a move to unlap himself. It would seem that Emerton has let him through, and so Adrian Stratford will continue to move up towards the back of the field.
Brad Ryan's still pulling out a gap over John Latham. It was at about 6.5 seconds. It's now out to nearly 7.5. So Brad's not messing around. He's still pushing on as hard as he can.
Yeah, even more of a gap for John Latham to make up with 25 or so minutes of this race to go.
And Michael Manley's still another 10 seconds exactly from John Latham in third. So after that, times the cars are a lot more close to each other. Sandman Clark, he is just in front of Matthew Hill still. Hill is catching back up to Sandman though, so no doubt that battle's going to resume very shortly.
Oh, Matthew Hill just had a bit of a moment. Oh, I saw that in the background while watching Stephen Clark on track. Matthew Hill struggling with a bit of a snappy car. Might have pushed a little bit too hard and trying to catch Stephen Clark up.
And that was Michael Manley off in the dirt as they went past. So looks like Stephen Clark and Matthew Hill have got another position. That would put Clark up into third position.
Wow, nice job from Stephen Clark.
Especially because he started down in 7th place. So to keep out of all the chaos that's been going on in this race and having his own incident himself, to have no damage and get away with it, that's not a bad effort.
Stephen Clark keeping it nice and steady here. Good to see.
Slow and steady wins the race, they say.
Indeed. Harry Gosling coming out of the final turn.
He'll be wondering if he's winning or losing or what. There's not many people around him at the moment.
Indeed, it seems that the field is rather spaced out apart from a few clumps of cars in the midfield. Leaders, I saw a little bit of a blink from Brad Ryan there, but we'll see what happens there. Brad Ryan entering the final turn and John Latham just starting on the straight to the final turn. So he's put the gap down by a couple of tenths last time by. We'll see what the gap is this time by. See if John Latham has managed to claw a bit of the time back from from Brad Ryan. Yes, he has.
2 tenths that time.
Gained 3 tenths. So we'll see. The race is not over till it's over. So we'll see what happens. Robert Hartley closing in on Luke Emerton at the moment. They're not much more than a corner apart. Hartley coming onto the straight for the final turn. Luke Emerton coming into the final turn and exiting it right now. The gap between them, I would say, is about 3 or so seconds. We'll see what the gap is this time by. Oh, Robert Hartley's managed to close up a little bit. The gap down to 2 seconds now. So might see Robert Hartley challenging Luke Emerton for 7th.
And Stephen Clark's holding his own at the moment. He's only 1/10 of a second slower than Matthew Hill that time around, so he's on a pretty good race at the moment and looking like he might nearly clean up a podium position.
Yes, definitely. Matthew Hill, you can tell that he's hungry for that final podium position, but it seems he's just pushing a little too hard in places and just making a couple of mistakes on the way through every time he gets close to Stephen Clark. But it would seem that Sandman is just cruising along like a grand old warship. And we'll see if he cleans up a podium position, as you say.
It looks as though John Latham has made another mistake because he's gone from 6.3 seconds, I think it was last time around, to 7.7 now.
Or he'll be looking to keep his head down and just focus, just try and keep himself calm so that he can catch up Brad Ryan possibly before the end of the race.
Well, we're only
Adrian
just getting
Stratford.
to halfway through the race now, so there's still a long way to go through this race.
Indeed, a very long way to go. Adrian Stratford has pulled back into the pits. Not sure why. Why do you think that might be? Looks from the way his car's moving that he might be getting repairs done. So you think he might have had a little bit of an incident sometime?
Yeah, I've just gone back through the replay now, and going into turn 1, it looks like he's had a bit of an off. I'm not sure. Maybe he has had some damage because it looked a little bit clumsy, to be honest. But looks like the car just stepped out from under him under brakes, and the rear stepped around and ran off the track. So there was no major contact or anything. But yeah, maybe he's just decided that it's just too hard to drive at the moment and needs some repairs.
Now, looks like he ran a little bit wide coming out of turn 1, but he managed to get it tucked in nicely for the next turn. He comes out behind Harry Gosling, and that's probably just about the first car that he's seen in a long time. In a bit of a no man's land at the moment, Harry Gosling. Between Michael Manley and Robert Hartley, there's more than 10 seconds between him and those two cars. So, oh, he's made a little bit of a mistake. Harry Gosling, he's at a bit of oversteer out of the first sweeper, but he managed to save it just, and he's managed to keep going, and that's brought Robert Hartley and Luke Emerton up to him. They'll be smelling blood and maybe going in for the kill very soon if Harry Gosling makes another mistake. Hartley's gone past Luke Emerton in the intervening minutes, and seems to be closing in on Harry Gosling for 6th as Gosling goes through turn 1 and Hartley and Emerton follow.
The gap up the front has stabilised a little bit last time around. It's still at about 7.9 seconds, so wonder if Brad's backing off. Actually, no, the last lap around was a 1:04.6, so that's not exactly just making sure he finishes the race. That's still pushing.
Channeling Sebastian Vettel is Brad Ryan, setting consistent lap times while still maintaining a comfortable lead and staying largely mistake-free.
Looks like the battle for third's heating up as well, with Stephen Clark, Matthew Hill and Michael Manley are all. Oh no, there's actually somebody in between it.
That's Stephen Clark, Matthew Hill, and who is that?
Desmond Hallam, I think.
Desmond Hallam. Lap car. Let's see if he will let Matthew Hill by in the next couple of corners. But Matthew Hill suffering a little bit of oversteer, but probably just getting his car pointed in the right direction. Still a fair distance behind Stephen Clark, but maybe the draft from Desmond Hallam will be able to get Matthew Hill up close to Stephen Clark's bumper and possibly challenge him for third. We're now just under half distance, so we've got just under half the race to go. And at this point, the gap between Brad Ryan and John Latham last time by was 8.8 seconds, so we're seeing that John Latham made another mistake in that intervening time. 25 seconds behind the leader is Stephen Clark in third, with Matthew Hill very close behind. Looks like he's past Desmond Hallam now and closing in. Matthew Hill's off. Oh no, pushed a little too hard, and he's escaped back to the pits. Oh, and he's disconnected from the server. I think he must have had enough. Horrible end for Matthew Hill's night. He won't be feeling too flash about that.
Yeah, it's never nice being caught up with somebody like some lap traffic in front of you, and even if they're only a fraction of a second slower than you, it's still very off-putting to be following somebody that's you're not actually racing for position, because you don't want to risk anything and making a desperate pass when it's not going to pay off.
Indeed, bad end for Matthew Hill, unfortunately, but going through the positions, now that Matthew Hill is out of the server, and Desmond Hallam, oh geez, I can't run through the positions at this rate. Desmond Hallam has had a bit of an off, a lap down, and would seem in a no man's land as well, with not many cars around him. Harry Gosling is now moved up into 5th position, having inherited a position from Matthew Hill. Luke Emerton has gotten back past Robert Hartley. Seems to be a long way back at the moment.
I was just trying to have a look to see what actually happened there, but it might have happened a few laps ago. There's nothing in the last couple of laps that has let Emerton back past Hartley, so interesting to see what happened there.
Indeed. Robert Hartley is on course to be lapped by Brad Ryan, who has still managed to keep very, very steady throughout this race.
Yeah, you can see when his mind obviously starts wandering and does a few 105 threes, 105 flats, and then gets straight back into 104 sixes again. So it's in a long race like this, when you're out that far in front, your mind wanders, you think about other things, and concentrating on cars with,
geez, almost collected. Brad Ryan did Harry Gosling, but Brad Ryan managed to avoid it. That's I think the wake-up call that Brad Ryan needed to keep focused.
Yeah, the last lap before that was a 105.4, so yeah, those sort of things definitely get you back concentrating again, that's for sure.
An alarm clock with a hammer coming out and hitting you on the head, it would seem like. And John O'Barry has disconnected from the service, so that's another racer's night ended. So we currently have 8 cars circulating on track. First is Brad Ryan, second John Latham, third Stephen Clark, fourth Michael Manley, 5 Harry Gosling, 6th Luke Emerton, 7th Robert Hartley, and rounding out the field in 8th is Desmond Hallam, who is 1 lap down on the rest of the field. Harry Gosling in 7th.
And he pits too.
My timing is not quite up to scratch. Harry Gosling isn't showing up on my cameras, so he's disconnected. So that's 7 cars left circulating. Having cars
looks like he's had
flies
another incident into turn 1, and I'm not sure. Doesn't look like he's got any damage on the car, so maybe he's just decided that he's not going to get his ticket into the final this round and giving up for tonight.
Yeah, unfortunate. But way up the front, Brad Ryan now, last time by, nearly 17 seconds ahead.
Yeah, John Latham's obviously had another issue.
Stephen Clark is 10 seconds behind John Latham, just going steady, as we've mentioned before. And it looks like at this rate, with Michael Manley a further 11 or so seconds behind Stephen Clark, it seems like now with just over a quarter of the race to go, it would seem that the podium spots are fleshed out for now.
Well, I've just gone back through the replay, and John Latham had a really big off. He was very lucky not to collect a wall then. So that's obviously where he's lost his 10 seconds or more.
Indeed.
It is very hard trying to catch up to a car that far in front, because you're going to be pushing as hard as you can. But you know, if somebody like Brad Ryan that far out in front decides, all right, he's got the race in the bag, all he has to do is keep it on the track. If you start to back off and take it easy, you can make some. Oh, come on.
That was Adrian Stratford there, who had spun in front of Brad Ryan. but again managed to stay out of trouble, and Brad Ryan has kept going. Out of the final turn now, and just punching out lap times at the moment.
He's backed off a little bit on that last lap as well, so catching some more lap traffic, you've just got to keep your eyes open. Make sure that you know that they know you're coming before you try and pass them, and make sure that you're not going to run into somebody else's incident, especially when you're nearly 20 seconds in front.
Indeed, and at this rate, Brad Ryan is currently got two options here. He can either just stay behind lap cars for a little bit and lose a little bit of time, but at the same time stay out of trouble, or he can continue pushing and risk his race. So a little bit of a dilemma while you're out in the lead, because John Latham has brought the gap under 17 seconds again. But looks increasingly unlikely that it'll catch Brad Ryan before the end of the race. Tomorrow night, we've got Race to Reality is not the only thing that V8's Online broadcasts. We also broadcast the official iRacing V8 Supercar Series and the Australian split for the iRacing Grand Am Championship. We are broadcasting that tomorrow night at at 8:45 Australian Eastern Time. We got 3 splits for the last round at Spa, and it was one of the best races that the commentators have ever seen from reports that I've gotten, and I'll be racing. Probably not in the top split, but yeah, it's a good series, and you should watch it, definitely. It's good multi-class racing, and it's on one of the world's most legendary racetracks.
That's right, and last Thursday night I had Jay Kennedy message me on Facebook saying, watch this race, best sim race I've ever seen in my life, get onto it. And had a watch of the replay during my lunch break today, and got so keen that I downloaded the baseline setup and did a few laps, so I'm thinking I might nearly do a qualifying time later tonight and have a race tomorrow.
Robert Hartley has made a move on Luke Emerton, and Brad Ryan is right in the thick of it, but Luke Emerton has let Brad Ryan by, and now Hartley is going to be next in line, but they're
the sorts of things that can win or lose Brad Ryan's race. You know, I think his race has already been won. It's just up to somebody else to see if it's going to take that away from him or not.
Indeed, it's Brad Ryan's race to lose at the moment, especially now that he's coming up through lapped traffic. It's just under 10 minutes to go on the race, so we've got a quarter of the race to go, and it's nearly over at the moment. Looks like Brad Ryan has pretty much got this win in the bag, just as long as he can stay out of trouble. Passing Robert Hartley. Rob Hartley moves over to the right and slows down just a little bit and allows Brad Ryan by, so that Brad can continue charging into the lead.
So now we've only got 4 cars left in the lead lap, so there's been a few retirements. I think there's 5 retirements now, but there's still a few cars left going, but looks as though Stephen Clark's still in 3rd position in front of Michael Manley. Full 10 seconds either side of him though, so it's starting to get a pretty boring race for Stephen Clark as well.
Yes, the field is very thin and very spread out at the moment, but we have a bit of consolation in that we've seen a very good display of driving from Brad Ryan and Stephen Clark so far, managing to stay out of trouble and consolidate their positions while they're at it.
That's an awesome effort. I reckon Stephen Clark will be so wrapped with 3rd position at the moment. To miss all the carnage and starting 7th on the grid to get up that far, that's a really good effort, because midfield, starting in a race like this around a short circuit, it's so easy to get caught up in first lap incidents. So everybody was pretty well behaved at the start and then caused all the chaos after that.
Yes. Looking at John Latham right now. Comfortably in 2nd, but I'm pretty sure in his head he'll be thinking that 1st was unfortunately out of his reach.
It took him quite a few laps to get down to that 104.0 in qualifying that almost pipped Brad for pole, and it might have been a completely different race if he had got in front of Brad Ryan. It's because it was such an even start. If he had led into turn one, he could have controlled the race a little bit more, even if he didn't have the outright pace as what Brad has. But it's just not the way it was meant to be for John Latham, so he'll have to try again next round to try and get into that final to see if he can go to the Aussie Legends.
Definitely. Brad Ryan coming round to lap Desmond Hallam now. Desmond, snaking down the pit straight. Not sure what was going on there, but Brad Ryan, a little bit of a snapperoonie coming into turn one, but I'm sure that Desmond Hallam will let him by soon enough, and he does. So Desmond Hallam being followed by Rob Hartley at the moment. So Des Hallam is down quite a bit, and the order might be a bit confusing if you're if you were a spectator at this race without access to a heads-up display. But we'll have to let him by too soon enough, and he does. Oh, but he turns it. Oh no! Oh, I'm not too sure that. Oh dear, they're teammates as well. So I wonder how that's panning out in their team speak or garage or.
So we've got the Grand Am series tomorrow night, also on v8online.com.au, and after the weekend's break, we're also going back to the V8 Supercars, of course, for the Monday Night League, and this week we're heading around to Road Atlanta, which we haven't been for quite some time. So Brad Ryan just had a massive slide going into, what was it, turn 3.
So showing a few little cracks in his armour at the moment, but still manages to maintain the lead from John Latham.
40 minutes is a very long time to keep concentration in one of these cars, and especially when you've got nobody right behind you keeping you focused, or right in front of you to keep you focused, trying to catch somebody. So to do 36.5 minutes out that far in front, Brad Ryan's done an awesome job, and looks like he's only just held that one together.
Indeed, still a very good job from Brad Ryan as he runs a little bit wide into turn 1, and the lap traffic nearly collects him. Wonder if his tyres might be going off. Summit Point is a circuit with more left turns than right ones, so I'm thinking that maybe Brad Ryan might be having a bit of trouble with his left tyres. Lap 33 of however many there will be before the timer ends. So 33 laps on tyres that the Legend has without a pit stop. I'm sure that they'll be showing the carcass pretty soon.
Yeah, and these tyres on this car, when I was racing it on Park in this series, they last a very long time. And and we've had, who was that? Desmond Hallam has gone around right behind Brad Ryan.
Oh yeah, coming out onto one of the fastest sections of the circuit, but fortunately, we've got one car coming up in the background, but that shouldn't be too much trouble. Des has stayed out of the way, and he pulls into the pit lane. He's pulling into the pit lane. Don't know whether to repair or to retire.
Oh, and Brad Ryan's gone off.
Brad Ryan off. Oh no,
big off.
That's So it seems that the tyres and the concentration are getting to Brad Ryan a little bit. John Latham is now pretty much in the background of the camera shot at the moment. So I don't know if Brad doesn't, if Brad keeps having this happen to him, he might have face a bit of a challenge for the win.
So Brad Ryan, as you can see, is just got into the brakes a little bit too hard, and because he just had a couple of half slides or half losers already, those rear tyres would have been fried. So so easy to lock a brake once you've had a couple of slides, and that's exactly what's caught Brad Ryan out.
We've got 3 minutes to go in this race, which with 1 minute lap times should be, I'll say, about 3 laps to go, maybe 4. So we're nearing the end of this race, and Brad Ryan has managed to keep it together in turn 1 this time around. So he's probably going to hold it together to the end. But John Latham is 6.1 seconds behind him now, so he's obviously noticed that Brad Ryan made that mistake at turn 1 on the last lap, and he's thinking I may have a chance at this, so he's probably ramped up his pace a little bit. Desmond is still in the pits, and Adrian Stratford has come out of the pits, and he's into turn 1 now, running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1, caught the grass a bit there, but overall not too bad an event for Adrian Stratford. Having come into this event with no practice, I'd say it's an alright showing.
Yeah, it's not too bad. He's found some pretty good pace, but as Brad Ryan comes around onto the start-finish straight, we have clocked over 40 minutes, so I'm assuming he's just about to start his last or second last lap.
He crossed the line at 38 minutes and 5 seconds, Mitch, so it would seem that
yes,
he's
I was
got,
looking at the wrong clock.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Second last lap would seem, at the very least, for Brad Ryan. Either the second last or the third last. We'll see once he comes around to do another lap. And Adrian Stratford is there off in the grass at the switchbacks, just letting lap traffic by, it would seem.
Might have been signing some autographs or something out there by the look of that. He wasn't moving too quickly.
Stephen Clark still comfortably in third. Now, last time by, he was 22 seconds in front of Michael Manley, so I think his podium position is pretty safe.
It looks like Brad Ryan's found his form again. His last couple of laps were back into the 1 minute 4s and 1 minute 3s, so he's only got a couple of minutes left.
The time when he crossed the line was 39 minutes and 10.9 seconds, so it would seem that this is the last lap for Brad Ryan, his final tour around the circuit with 50 seconds to go. Last time he went by, he's got lap traffic in front of him, but he shouldn't be too troubled by that. John Latham's a sizable distance behind him, but Brad Ryan overall, incredibly good drive in round 10 of Race to Reality.
He's had a fair few lucky escapes too, with lap traffic in front of him having a few loops and having a few incidents of his own as well, so he's just managed to hold on to the win by the look of it.
Yep, moving, snaking across the track. Checkered flag is out. Brad Ryan wins round 10 of the Race to Reality series. John Latham just behind in second. Stephen Clark is coming around the final corner now. A fantastic drive from Stephen Clark. Managed to stay out of trouble and keep his nose clean, so Sandman gets third. Michael Manley is further on behind him, just coming round the straight towards the last turn. And Robert Hartley.
Robert Hartley, the last driver to be on the lead lap, so it's not a bad effort considering he's had a few incidents as well, nearly getting taken out by his own teammate a few laps ago as well, so pretty action-packed race really, even though a lot of the cars were spaced out half the time.
Yeah, indeed. It was a very interesting race, especially around the beginning and middle. Brad Ryan doing donuts and doing a few burnouts there in celebration of his victory. So yeah, not a bad race, I would say. Oh, goes flying into the air. That's a way to celebrate.
Too much Red Bull for Brad Ryan, I think.
John Latham doing burnouts on the grass. Celebration of his second, but you can't help but get the feeling that it could have been more than that.
Yeah, as I was saying just before the start of this race, my tip was going to be John Latham, but it's just one of those bogey things for him in this series. He's been so close so many times, but not quite able to pick up a win. So as you can see on the screen at the moment, Brad Ryan took out the win 5.2 seconds ahead of John Latham. Stephen Clark with that awesome drive from 7th on the grid to stay out of chaos. He'll be over the moon with that one. Michael Manley in 4th, Robert Hartley 5th. Last drive on the lead lap, and then we'll go down to Luke Emerton, who was a lap behind, Desmond Hallam 3 laps behind, Adrian Stratford, who pitted about 4 or 5 times in his first ever race, so to be finished midfield, that's not too bad. Harry Gosling, we saw that he retired after a few spins as well. Matthew Hill, John O'Barry, and Robbie Tomei.
So a good race for round 10 of Race to Reality. Very interesting race. I'd say my driver of the race, Brad Ryan.
Yep, not going to agree with you on that one. That was an awesome qualifying performance, and then to get a lead like that and not make any mistakes, and he kept his eye on the ball. Any incident that happened in front of him, he stayed out of, and had a couple little lost tracks, but he did a really good job, so definitely deserves to be in the final.
Yeah, in spite of everything that happened, Brad Ryan has earned a place in the Race to Reality final, and he might just have a shot at securing that drive in the final Aussie Race Cars round of the year. So we'll see what happens in the coming rounds of Race to Reality.
So I reckon that's about it for tonight. Brad Ryan, the winner. Join us again tomorrow night at 8:45 for the Grand Am series, which is going to be a hotly contested one with the Riley prototypes as well as the McLaren cars that have just come out onto iRacing not long ago, and of course the Monday V8. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah.